Okay guys, what's going on? This is the second part of probably the longest game review in human history of the game Crysis 2, and we're going to continue talking about the categories, continue going by categories talking about the game. So we just did the plot line. Now I want to talk about the characters in the game. The characters in the game are completely undeveloped. I would say underdeveloped, but that wouldn't even do it justice. They're completely undeveloped. At least for somebody like me, and probably like all the other console gamers who did not play the first game, these characters, you have no idea who they are, they really don't make any sense, and you never really find out who they are really. You find out some little things, like one guy who's the leader of these cell forces, who you never really know who they are. This guy Hargreave, who's a big part of it, he seems to be a big guy behind the nanosuit technology and stuff like that, but other than that, it's really underdeveloped, or undeveloped, I should say, not even completely undeveloped characters. You never really gain an attachment to anybody in this game. You never, an emotional bond is never drawn, and a perfect example is the main character. You play basically as a Marine named Alcatraz, who was not in the first game, so this doesn't even apply. This is for anybody, whether you played the first game or not. You play as a guy named Alcatraz, and basically, I won't give it away, but you inherit the nanosuit, and basically you are a completely silent character, and I think the last time I played it as a silent character was Subject Delta in Bioshock 2, which made sense because Big Daddies can't speak. And I don't have a huge problem with silent characters. I mean, every character in the old days used to be a silent character. It just only changed pretty recently that you actually were a speaking main character, but in these FPS type of games, but I do mind it when there's scenarios in the game that a big dramatic moment happens or something happens that can be completely cured if you just speak. And if you play the game, you'll know what I mean. I mean, there's one part where this guy thinks you're somebody who you're really not, and he thinks you're a spy or whatever, and he pulls a gun on you, points it at your head, and starts yelling at you about, you're not this guy, blah, blah. All you have to do is open your mouth and say, no, I'm this guy. But you don't. You just sit there like an idiot in complete silence, and you're like, well, my vocal cords got taken out, so I guess I'm going to take a bullet to my brain. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Silent characters are fine. There's nothing wrong with silent characters, but you got to make it believable. And in this scenario, it was completely unbelievable that this guy would not speak a word as a gun is pointed to his head and he's about to die. He doesn't say anything. He just sits there and is like, okay, you can shoot me. I'd rather die than speak. It's completely stupid, and you never, ever learn who your character is. The game is 10 hours long. You play through the entire game, and you never, not once, learn anything about your character. I understand the point of the character is supposed to be kind of like a grunt, an any-day, everyday Marine who's really not supposed to be anybody. But if you're going to play the game for 10 hours, you might want to have a main character that the people playing the game can actually get emotionally attached to. I never did. I mean, I was 6-7 hours into the game. This guy could have jumped off a cliff and I wouldn't have cared. I'd have just been like, okay, he's dead, whatever. Because there's no emotional connection. You don't speak as the character, and there's no backstory. You're no one, literally no one, the entire game. Nothing about your family, nothing about your past, where you came from, who you are, nothing. You're basically no one. You're basically a shell character, and what I mean by that is you're just a body. There's nothing else there. You never learn anything about this guy, so why would you be emotionally attached to him? Why would you care about this main character? He's no one. He doesn't speak, and he has no story. He just is randomly there, and this is who you play as. It's completely stupid, and it adds to the point of the previous thing of the plot not making any sense, because and this guy never questions why he's in a nanosuit. He never questions it. Basically, he wakes up, he's in a suit, and he never questions why. He just goes along with it and does what everybody tells him to do. It makes no sense, and your main character is a joke, and you never care about him, which is completely stupid. Another couple of things talking about the characters. Basically, as I said, you're a Marine, so you do have some like a little group of Marines that you run around with at times, sometimes randomly because the plot doesn't make sense. But as I said, that there's this guy Hargreave, and he gets in touch with you at some point during the game, and he can speak somehow through your nanosuit so that everyone around you can hear him. I don't know how, but you're with your Marines at one point, and you have an objective. I mean, you have a mission. You're trying to fight off this alien invasion. You have orders as United States Marines, but this guy randomly pops on your nanosuit and starts talking and is like, oh, well, you need to drop everything you're doing right now and do what I'm saying because, the suit, there's something about the suit and you got to go do this to basically, save the world or whatever. And the Marines are just like, okay, sure, we're going to drop our objective as United States Marines and do what this random guy, who we have no idea who he is, only your main character has had contact with this guy in the past. These Marines have no idea who he is. And your character never speaks, obviously, to say who he is. And they're just like, okay, we're gonna drop our mission from the United States, Marine, from the Marines, our objective, and we're gonna go listen to this guy who we have no idea who he is, and go off on a random goose chase. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense. Nobody is going to listen to a random dude who no one knows who he is when you're Marines and just give up on your objective and listen to this guy. It doesn't make sense. And the last thing I want to talk about, and there is a spoiler alert here, sort of. I'm not going to directly give anything away, but there could be some insinuation, okay? I'll say that. Basically, like I said, this guy Hargreave, at the end of the game, you find out, really who he is. I mean, not who he is as far as a character, because again, you don't know, but who he is, like, as a person, what his character really is. And when you find out who it is at the end of the game, it is a complete 115% ripoff of a main character from another game that I have played. And I'm not going to directly give it away, but I'm going to give some hints. So if you've played the game, then you know. It's a major character in a game that came out in October of last year and was an extremely long game. 60 to 80 hour game that came out in October of last year that I played, loved it, and here's a huge one. I did a game review of it. So he is a complete 125% ripoff of the main character from that game. And obviously, if you know what I'm talking about, then you know what I'm talking about. And it was awful because at that point in the game, that was the first time in the game that I was actually, for the first time, enjoying it, sort of, and was kind of starting to get into the game. Now, this was about 9 hours and 15 minutes in. The game's 10 hours long, and this was the first time I started to get interested. And then that happened, and it completely ruined it for me. If you watch my playthrough, you'll know I basically got to this point in the game and I was excited about it, and then I saw this and I literally said, fuck this. I literally said that because it ruined it. I mean, everything up to the point of there was awful. It was finally starting to get good at the end, and then they do a 125% rip-off of a character that was done in this game from October of last year. So yeah, it was awful, and they should be ashamed. Crytek should be ashamed of themselves for stealing another person's idea, because that's exactly what they did with this guy Hargreave, and it was despicable. It really was. This is going to be an extremely long review. We can probably do a little bit more before we go to the next part. This is a big overarching category with other categories in it. And it's gameplay in general, okay? And the first category I have under gameplay is your suit, because obviously that's a big part of this game is the nano suit. That's the, that's the mechanic in the game that makes the game different, supposedly, okay? And I want to talk a little bit about the different abilities you have with the suit and so forth. The first ability you have is something called Max Armor Mode, and basically what that is you tap the L2 or left bumper, whatever system you're playing, and you go into Max Armor, which basically means that you have improved armor, and you can take more, you increase your damage threshold. So, it's one of the only ones that I actually found useful. I mean, basically if you're in a giant firefight and you're getting, raped, and you you know, can, and you don't want to die, obviously. You hit max armor mode and you can take more damage and usually survive. So that one's actually kind of useful. Time check, we got about 5 minutes. The next one is called Cloak Mode, and basically this is stealth mode. You go invisible, and it's supposed to obviously be stealthy. You can sneak around, and that wasn't good. I just raked my door. Anyway, you can go around and basically do stealth kills. I found this mode actually pretty much useless. There really wasn't any. There's like 2 or 3 parts in the game that actually, were meant to use Cloak Mode. I mean, the game developers blatantly was like, this is what we designed Cloak Mode for, and the game actually prompts you to go into Cloak Mode, which is pretty sad. Because basically when you're in Cloak Mode, you can go around, the entire suit, first of all, I want to say, runs off something called suit energy, and basically it's like a meter, and everything you do with the suit, all these modes and sprinting and everything else, uses the energy meter, and that when that runs out, you can't do anything with the suit for a couple of, a few seconds, and it's got to recharge. So anyway, the Cloak Mode uses energy, and if you run or shoot or anything else in Cloak Mode, the energy drains and is gone. So it's basically only for stealth, sneaking by people and doing stealth kills, which is pretty cool, except that Crytek didn't actually make it useful when it comes to the game. And because if you're in a big open area, like most of the game is played in, and you walk behind somebody and do a stealth kill, well, everyone's going to see you do it, and your stealth is blown. So, yeah, you might be able to stealth kill one guy, but that's it. So pretty useless. And if you're trying to do stealth mode and walk through a big level of guys, and your energy runs out, well then you're screwed, obviously, because you're out of stealth mode, they can all see you, and you're going to die. So the Cloak Mode, interesting idea, obviously, but it really doesn't have a big purpose in the game. And I remember one time I was walking through a park, the parking garage level that I was talking about, trying to get to that area, that lobby of that building, and I was walking through the parking garage, and I didn't want to fight all the guys, so I went in stealth mode, and I snuck by the first few of them, but then I got in an area, I was still in Cloak Mode, my energy had not run out yet, and for some reason they started lighting me up. They started shooting me and dominating me, and I was caught in the middle of all of them because I had snuck through some, so there were some behind me, all around me, and I died. And I was like, what the hell happened? I was in Cloak Mode. Why did they see me? And the answer is, I don't know why. It seems like the Cloak Mode doesn't really work. You can walk around, but they see you anyway somehow in different parts. So, the Cloak Mode, again, an interesting idea, but it really doesn't work in the game. Like I said, the 2 or 3 parts where the game prompts you to use Cloak Mode, obviously it works because the developers designed it to work in that situation. But other than that, it's really not useful. So anyway, this will do it for part 2, and when we come back, we're going to finish talking about the suit. We're going to go into the combat, the level design, and finally something that's been a huge part of this game, the graphics. We're going to talk about those. Then I'm going to go into the official game review that I have pulled up and do that, and then to wrap everything up, we will talk about the multiplayer component. So be sure to come back for part 3, and we'll continue going.